Here's a performance of On the Rise again, but this time it's using a gaff instead of just an impromptu sleight of hand version. I hope you like it. You will notice that there are no breaks being held whatsoever. The cards can be shuffled, the cards can be spread upon the table, there are no breaks, you simply pick up the deck and go right into the routine. Plus there is a bonus effect, which is a haunted pack effect at the very end of this 4/8 production, because you can use the very same gaff used for On the Rise Again for the haunted pack routine. After all 4 aces have been produced from the pack, now it's time to go into the bonus effect, which is a haunted pack effect. The cards are spread upon the table. The spectator can choose any one of the aces. It doesn't really matter. The card could be signed if you wished for whatever purpose. In this case, we're going to use the ace of clubs. The other aces go back into the pack. The ace of clubs gets inserted into the pack roughly about halfway down. You cut the deck in half, put the ace of clubs right back in the center of the pack. At this point, the cards can be dribbled. They can be ribbon spread upon the table to show that there's absolutely no control at this point. The card is really lost back into the pack. Now to find the spectator's card, you simply square the pack up and use your index fingers as sort of a magic wand. We'll just give a little magical gesture, and of course the deck will start to slowly separate at that point, and it slowly separates further and further until you finally cut the deck in half at the spectator's selected card, the ace of clubs. Here's the gaffed version of On the Rise Again. It uses a plastic strip which is 1 1/4 inch long, 1/4 inch wide, and 1/8 of a tab sticking out at the top, which is easily accessible to your first finger with the tab sticking out of the deck. Now this is the setup for the routine. You need 4 aces. You need the joker with the plastic tab sticking out of it. The other joker is cut into the deck, so it's lost somewhere in the middle of the pack. It doesn't really matter where at this point or at this time. So you have 4 aces, the gimmicked joker with the tab sticking down, and an indifferent card at the top. So all of these are at the top of the deck to begin with. This is the performance run through of the effect. You take the cards out of the deck, you can spread them face up. If you want, remember the tab is always sticking out towards the back so no one ever sees it. If you want, you can rotate the deck. Now notice that the tab is at the very top of the pack and is hidden by your first index finger, which hides that tab as you weave the cards together. Now you weave the cards together, leaving the top 5 or 6 cards intact. You waterfall the shuffle. So far the 5 or 6 cards at the top are have not been alternated whatsoever. You can give the cards a slight Hindu shuffle, bringing the gimmick to the center of the pack, which is where you cut the deck basically by ending your Hindu shuffle at that point. So the gimmick is now roughly about the middle. If I spread the cards on the table with the normal ribbon spread, you'll see that the gimmick is sticking out of the pack, very clearly visible. But if you spread the cards on the table with a backward slant, now the tab becomes totally invisible. You'll notice that there's no tab visible at this point. It's a backward slant to the cards as you ribbon spread them. So to get into the routine, the tab is sticking out the back. You can pressure fan the cards. You can close the fan. Now the tab is at the very top. You rotate the deck around 180 degrees. The tab is at the bottom again. You can keep the tab hidden very, very easily is what I'm trying to say. When it's time to perform the effect, you actually hold the deck as you see here. Your first finger locates the tab, very easily to do because it's 1/8 of an inch of plastic sticking out of the deck, and you can separate the pack with your first finger at that point, making it very easy to contact the very first ace, which you rotate up and around with your first index finger. So the first card rotates up and around. Now as you see here, I'll do it again. And because I'm doing it somewhat slowly, there's going to be perhaps more than one card pivoting up and around, but in actual practice this happens very, very seldomly. Another card rotates up, another ace rotates up and around, and then last but not least, the very last ace will pivot up and out of the pack. Now the plastic tab makes it very easy to get your break whenever you wish from a squared up deck of cards. That's what I do like about the tab sticking out of the pack. You can do a ribbon spread, you have to hold no breaks whatsoever, but because the tab is there you can easily find your position to break the deck to perform this effect. Now here's a bonus effect that you can do because you have the plastic tab or the gimmick helping you perform this effect. After the 4 aces have risen from the pack, the spectator selects one of the aces. Now it doesn't matter which one they select. Let's say they name the ace of clubs, or for that matter it could be any card within the pack of cards. You can even sign it if you wish. What you do is you cut the deck where the plastic tab is. So the deck is cut in half where the plastic tab is, and then the deck is put right back together again, and you can actually dribble the cards to the table to show there's no control whatsoever. You can ribbon spread the deck upon the table, again showing no control. And now it's time for the haunted pack effect. This is where you square the deck up, and as you square them up, it gives the illusion as though the deck is separating itself into 2 segments all by itself. Now you notice that the left finger is creating a little bit of motion, as perhaps that is causing the deck to separate at that point. That's your misdirection. But actually it's your right second finger that's making the deck separate, and I'll show you how that's done in just a moment. Because of that plastic tab sticking out, this is a top view of it, the tab is exposed here. If you press with your second finger, it will pivot that card off at an angle. Very simply done. But now with the deck assembled, okay, the other half is on top, you square the deck up and you squeeze with your right second finger a little bit. You pull back on the tab and it makes the deck separate at that point, but your left first finger is actually misdirecting the for the pack to be separated, as if it's a magic wand or something like that. The deck separates at that point. You turn the card over and there's their selection, the ace of clubs. Once again from the front, it looks like this. The deck of cards are squared upon the table. The 2 index fingers of both hands are sort of hovering in the air, but the left index tab, the left index finger is actually moving like a magic wand a little bit, creating the illusion or the misdirection at this point that the cards are separating because of that finger making this magical movement. And of course the ace of clubs is their selection. That's just how easy this effect is to perform. Just an alternate way to perform on the rise again using a gaff at this point if you wish to use it. Now here's a nice cleanup. Remember the plastic tab is attached to a joker? Well, there's one joker. You simply remove the jokers at this point and you keep the tab hidden. It's underneath, it's the joker on the bottom over there. Remove the 2 jokers from the pack and show the fronts and the backs if you wish. Place them aside. Now the deck is entirely clean for whatever effect you wish to perform at this point.